Ancient Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew, -1 again this week. No Dean, some stuff to attend to, but as usual, I have the ever lovely Spiggs 18 or Anthony. And tonight we have with us a very special guest, our lovely friend Christopher Roberts Negelein of Ganza Gaming. Been here several times, so you might know him a little bit. Let me go ahead and give a little intro on him, just in case you don't know who he is. So Christopher is a great game designer for both 5e and Cypher system. He has several highly successful and rated adventures and settings under his belt. Ganza Gaming even has his own cult of followers on the Cypher Unlimited Discord server, and that is a true story.
The cult of Ganza is for real. It's a real thing, y'all.
Chris, give our audience here a quick hello.
Hello.
The quickest. So,
Exactly.
Anthony, I'll let you take things away.
Al, I want to add one thing to that bio that I should have wrote. Chris is excluding Dean because he later on became a full cast member. Chris was the first guest appearance. He was the first guest appearance ever on Cypher Unlimited.
Yes.
So that's a bit of a. He's actually been on several times, but he was the very first guest we ever had on Cypher Unlimited. So we're gonna always hold him in the highest esteem because Chris was there for us when we had one follower.
And it was him.
Hey, Chris, welcome to the CU. For those that are living under a rock, if you hang out on the Cypher Unlimited Discord server, I think most people absolutely know who you are, but can you tell our viewers that may not be on the Discord server a little bit about yourself and maybe your experience in tabletop RPGs?
Yeah, sure. Lately I've been just kind of lurking a little bit. I even reached out and said, you know what I used to do, everybody's doing it really well and being very welcoming. So I just jump in when I need to. I feel like the baton has been passed.
Oh, you're definitely the OG. You were part of the server almost at the very beginning, right?
It might have been double digits, might have been triple digits when I joined. I'll be modest and say it was probably triple digits, but we hit it off really well. I remember one time we spent like hours just doing role play back and forth between each other and just being silly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So for me, I'm going to give the super condense just so the people who already know me aren't going to go to sleep. Basically, way back in the day, I was at a Boy Scout camp and somebody was talking about orcs and flaming swords, like that book, Lord of the Rings. And I was hooked from there and really haven't stopped playing since. Well, maybe I took a couple of years off here and there just to get super serious and like finally graduate and things like that. I was trying to bang my head against the brick wall of traditional publishing to do fiction. But around my little local group, the Adventure Game Store in Davie, Florida, I got kind of that reputation. So I put together a little workshop and they judo flipped me, man, because it was the store owner, Brian, and one of his best friends, Rich, who were putting together a 5e game called Espergenesis, which is a science fiction 5e game. Next thing I know, I was writing for them. And, Cypher really spoke to me. I was also doing a podcast, the Nerd Extravaganza, which no longer is around, but it was a Geeky Live podcast. I interviewed Shauna Germain, I think for No Thank You Evil, if I'm right. And that motivated me to do a little, we now call, live action. I did a few episodes. Nobody said anything there. It didn't blow up. So I kind of put it to the side, but it was Cypher. And that was kind of hooked on Cypher. When they did community content, I went for it. And you can probably look at the covers of my PDFs and literally see my evolution as a graphic designer, how good the covers look. And as you said, 5 stars. And I am in an august group of only 2 other publishers who I'm looking at. Plus Andrew Marlowe, because Cypher reached out to us and asked if we would be first adopters of the Cypher system open license, which is how Mystery Flesh Pit is getting done. And at the same time, I saw this crazy website by a great artist, Trevor Roberts, And, lightning only strikes once. So I gave him a cold call. He said, that's not my skill set, but I know people who want it. So let's talk. And it's a thing. And it started Monday and it funded same day, under 8 hours. I was blown away.
Yeah,
and that's the whole summary right there, from beginning to where we are now with my RPG stuff.
And for people who know of Gonzo, and if you don't know of Gonzo, you should definitely look it up. But all the stuff he's made for Cypher is so good. I'm on the spot and I'm blanking on the fantasy one.
Fantasy.
Fantasy's even in the name. They're Mortal Fantasy, very good, and that would be an awesome product to pick up if you're just now getting the Cypher system because of things that have happened recently. That would be a nice segue into the system for yourself. But now that you mentioned Trevor and what you're doing here, can you tell us a little bit more about like the website and like the story and whatnot, and where that whole concept comes from, of Mystery Flesh Pit National Park?
Okay, so the website literally is that. It's mysteryfleshpitnationalpark.com, and it goes to a Tumblr page, and the whole page is just this crazy alternate universe where, like in 1973, this Texas oilman is drilling for oil and he pulls up blood. And he discovers this whole ecosystem, living creature, basically cosmic horror. It doesn't have an outer shell. It is the caverns. So what does he do when he can't have oil? He sells tickets. Come see the living caverns. And it goes from like roadside national park to national park to a catastrophe happening in 2007, and the park becomes a black site. That's on the front acreage. On the back acreage, there's always been a mining consortium going on, and those things end up in strange ways. Like, why is there this ad for Heartthrob Cola? Why is there this ad for really nice, laundry detergent related to this cosmic horror thing? It's a combination of like bizarre imagery and just really droll bureaucratic satire speak of what's you're looking at, or the concept that it's tackling.
That's what I was going to touch on. If anyone hasn't gone to the website, please do. It's like a multimedia. There's art, there's photos, there's many stories. It's such a fascinating site, and it's such a fascinating way to build out a narrative and to build out a setting that it's so unique that you get hooked. I was, the other day I was at the website and I was like, oh, I'm just going to, spend 5 minutes looking over some stuff. It was like an hour and a half later and I was still looking at
rabbit hole upon rabbit hole.
Let me read. Let me go further. And you like get addicted. You get hooked. It's so cool.
So Trevor, he has a background in graphic design and I think even architecture. And this was started, around COVID times and just kind of blew up. He did it for like 3 years straight. And when I saw this website and all the content, including YouTube videos and government reports, in my, RPG publisher headspace, I was like, all this is missing is rules. And you got everything else you need for a game right here.
Speaking of Trevor Roberts, right, the creator of Mystery Flesh Pit National Park, how did you find a website? And more importantly, how did the two of you hook up together to turn this crazy website into a tabletop RPG in the first place?
So there's this YouTube channel called Curious Archive, I think. Don't quote me on that. But its focus was strange and speculative evolution, sci-fi stuff. So it covers like different science fiction books and things and how the weird biology of the aliens in those books works out, and kind of turns it into like a documentary style thing. And the one I saw was the Mystery Flesh Pit, and I was like, what? And I found the original, and I was just looked like you did. I spent hours on it. And then going, oh, you know what? I've got the open license. Let's pitch this. And I did a little teaser to Charles, but didn't say much. Charles Ryan of Mighty Cook Games. And I reached out to him, and I was just really straightforward because of what I thought he wanted, what his level of interest would be. Like he does a lot of merchandise, but it's like from Redbubble. It's not like he has it at his house. So I was like, okay, so this guy he doesn't want to have stacks of inventory in his house. Neither do I. So we're like, okay, print on demand, stuff like that. And very straightforward, very honest. And he appreciated appreciated the attitude that he got, and he asked some questions, and I bounced back, and then we found some numbers to agree on, and he said, yeah, sure. And then you put together a contract more just so there's just some, because you never, how it goes. You want to do a handshake, and that's great, but things don't always work out the way they are, and it doesn't hurt to have something in paper so everybody kind of goes, oh yeah, that is what we agreed on. And then I went back to Charles, and this is the crazy little bit of the story. I went to Charles, told him the whole thing of what I was doing, and the email he gave me back was, just today my son talked about Mystery Flesh Pit National Park website and how awesome it would be for an RPG. We are excited.
That's awesome.
And I was like, what, just timing after timing after timing after time. It was just, lightning was just kept striking. So, and then I was like, I'm going to be very, very humble about it. I told everybody it's going to be a year before I even do the Kickstarter because I've got a day job. What?
I think you struck gold with this because not only is it the website interesting, it's branching off. There's like tons of other stories being built on it. That I just recently heard there's a Roblox game on Roblox based on it. So I think this IP is gonna spread, especially after the RPG comes out. It might spread even further. So Trevor really has he has a gem on his hands.
I think so too. Just like with Rich and Esper Genesis, I just I was like, this is something that's special, that's cool. And then for me, I mean, so cool that technically I could have just did Cypher and threw a little horror on the inside and then be done with it sort of thing. But I thought this deserved, if I'm doing it with Cypher, to like kind of really drill down and tweak and bend the rules so that it would be, something that would stand on its own, even in Cypher.
Guys in chat, if you have a question for Chris, we're more than happy to take them all. Just please do us a favor, preface it with the word question so Al knows that he could cut and paste it onto a separate document, and we'll ask as many questions as we can at the end. Al, I know Key Bounce asked the question earlier.
Yeah, no, I actually said in the chat if people have questions to ask, so yeah, I'm monitoring the situation.
You are on your job.
But yeah, you guys are making, or excuse me, Anthony made a super great point. Like the weird and interesting nature of this setting of the website, of all that stuff, is definitely going to be a big draw. Like it's gonna bring people either into the hobby or into this fandom, or vice versa. You know what I mean? One or the other is gonna happen. Either you're a Cypher fan, yeah, exactly. But speaking of the game, and we have people asking a little bit of questions here about the game, but either way, can you talk a little bit about Mystery Flesh Pit National Park, the role-playing game? Was Cypher system always your first choice for this?
Yes, that's straightforward, easy answer. Yes. I mean, we've already seen really great stuff with horror done. I mean, before the Kickstarter, we got the Staying Alive, which is one of the better Cypher supplements. I'm not saying the others are bad. I'm just saying, it's kind of like Pixar movies, man. It's a Cypher supplement. It isn't the question of whether or not it's going to be good. It's going to be a question of how good. And then it wasn't in between all that. We got the Monty Cook Games guys doing Old Gods of Appalachia. So I was like, okay, I am not offbeat here, taking Cypher into Horrorland.
As the Cypher Unlimited horror fan of the group, I think it's safe to say I'm probably the biggest horror RPG fan. I am having a field day with all these great Cypher horror projects that are coming out. I'm like a kid in a candy store. I couldn't act with so many between, all these great books. It started with Stay Alive, and now we have all these other great projects coming out that I'm waiting for. I'm super excited. And Mystery Flesh Pit is no different. It moves up to the top of my list of projects I'm super excited for.
Thank you.
You mentioned earlier, right, that the setting is based on an alternate timeline that started in 1973, which is a great year, by the way. It covers a few decades of history in the park. Can you tell us some interesting moments in the timeline? And can the characters play in any of the periods that it covers?
So just to further give you how crazy this website is, it's done as a kind of a retrospective of the history of the park. A perfect example is, I don't know if you've watched Defunctland on YouTube. It's a channel that covers like the life and death of amusement parks and rides at amusement parks. And this is done in a very similar style. Probably the biggest event, I'm just going to, start at the top. In 2007, there's a disaster. So I know everybody's like Mystery Flesh Pit. It's kind of on the level of like the Grand Canyon, but underground in Texas. By 2007, you know how like some cities like Seattle have like this spinning restaurant, like the Space Needle? Yeah. Imagine that upside down, in the throat of the creature. So what happens when the creature actually decides to swallow for once in 3 decades? 4 decades. That's the disaster. It swallows. There's like an emergency broadcast signal, YouTube you can watch. Evidently, there's pictures of tentacles flailing, and that's when the whole thing gets closed down. And on the face of it, you can see that they're pumping anesthetic into it and sedatives. If you read the government report, it gets a little more Lovecraftian and elder goddish. So that's the big thing. And I also saw a question about what's the scope of the game. The scope of the game is a little bigger than you think because, yeah, it's a park, but we have like 3 frameworks we're going to work with. One is called public service, where you're kind of you're basically a park guide and a park ranger. In this respect, park ranger is more Texas Ranger than Elven Ranger, if you get my drift. Yeah. Trying to, survive for the day, fill out your paperwork, and deal with tourists that have gotten horribly lost, mutilated, or fused with other organic objects. Then the next one is basically your PIB, your people in black, or the veil out team. Who, somebody had one heartthrob cola too many and had side effects that have now caused other murders. I mean accidents. I mean missing persons. And then the last one is basically the special contingency or the redacted group, which is basically fugitives, either because you're on the job at the Mystery Flesh Pit or because you have been living in Texas above this thing for generations. You have a curse, a blessing, some sort of power. And you know that if you get found out, you're going to go onto the dissecting table. So you're on the run into a world where bionic organic computers already exist. And Anodyne Corporation, the guys that do the mining, have their fingers in everything.
So can you play, could everyone play as like, say, one person plays a tourist, one person plays park ranger, or they can, the set stories, you all have to play one specific?
Well, the frameworks I'm suggesting to make it.
No, I was just going to just piggyback off the question is, are they going to be like types or, you can elaborate.
Oh, yeah, sure. I've got special types that help out, that special types that will sing in certain frameworks. That doesn't mean they won't work in the other ones, but they'll do better. If you get a mixed group, that says to me that you're doing kind of more of something like a big accident or something happens to get all these disparate people into one thing. So it will work if you're like all kind of the same group, but there's no way it couldn't hurt to do a mix-up group if you want. Those will probably be closer to one-shots versus campaigns.
Makes a ton of sense. Al?
Sorry, I was adding questions to the thingy. Yeah, so this project, already fully funded. Congratulations on that. Slam dunk right out the gates. We love
In
to see
under
it.
8 hours.
Yeah, you love to see it.
I went to work and I came home and I'm like, what?
Can you tell us? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say the story I told Chris before we went on air. Me and Dean literally, like, we were having a conversation. Like, Chris, Chris, we love him. God bless him. He was a little worried. He said, "Can you believe it? We fund it." And I was telling Dean, if this doesn't fund in like the first 12 hours, I'll be shocked. And me and Dean both agreed. So I told that to Chris. I was like, congratulations, but I had no doubt in my mind this thing was gonna fund real quick.
You had more faith in me than I did, that's for sure.
Yeah. So that being said, can you tell us a little bit about the stretch goals that you have announced already, and maybe any possibly future ones?
So one stretch goal we've already mentioned. Funny enough, I'm blanking out on what those set numbers were. But the first one is more monsters.
Woo-hoo.
And Trevor is already like, oh, you want me to make some more monsters? Sure, because he does the art.
That's so cool.
Now there is a challenge because a lot of his monsters are basically parasitic animals. So it's not like for every art. A lot of RPGs, everything that's listed is something that will kill you or eat you, right? Some of these things, are going to be cool to record, but they're not going to be as, there's a challenge to finding like, how can this potentially hurt somebody, even though the animal itself is, relatively harmless and doesn't want to be bothered. And then the other stretch goal is, brain just fried. I may have to look up my other stretch goal. It was more monsters.
We could pull it up.
Yeah,
I'm blanking too.
Why am I blanking? It's sorry, guys. I have a full-on work day, so when I get here at 10 o'clock at night.
God, so let me put up the link here.
I feel so embarrassed.
No, there's no bringing at all. But while we pull that up, seeing as your what you call it?
I found it.
Awesome.
Because probably because I already covered it. That's why my brain was breaking. It's a trilogy of adventures that follow those three frameworks I just talked about.
Awesome.
The artwork for that you have on the cover page for the trilogy of adventures is really cool. Trevor did that as well.
Yes, that is new art. That is art that went to us first before the website. That's going to be one of the things we're funding, is for Trevor to do some art just for the game, or just for the game at first, and then eventually get to his website.
Yeah.
So you'll be getting some stuff you don't, ordinarily see as a Mystery Flesh Pit fan.
That's awesome. You love to see that.
Yeah,
definitely. And his fans are really in his corner. One of the little stories is when I mentioned that I was going to do the game and kind of like an official thing, everybody was like, "Did you talk to Trevor first? Are you really official, or are you just And I'm like, Trevor, you need to take over. They don't believe it.
And as a testament, I'm assuming a fan of Trevor's is in the audience here, and they're like, new art, yes, like they're all excited. So yeah, I could definitely see, he has a pretty nice fan base who does have his back. Yes.
So speaking of, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, Jack One Spade in chat just said that they backed it, and they thanked us because they haven't they never heard of this. No, thank you for backing our good friend Chris's project, and trust me, you're not going to regret it. Not only is Chris a great designer, this thing looks freaking awesome. And
out of curiosity,
some actual plays.
If he doesn't mind, can he tell me what pledge he backed? Because that might be important tonight.
Jack, if you heard that, the $30 pledge.
So, especially for the people that were from Mystery Flesh Pit as well, that $30 pledge, the Docet pledge, brand new tonight. Because I'll be honest, this is Baby's first Kickstarter, and people were talking to me, we need to have more international pledges. Could we please have a digital only stretch goal? Because the one I originally made, you got the book when you got the book, and then you could get the book and the the PDF stretch goals. And we heard you, and that is the new that $30 pledge is one of the new pledges. Another pledge we have tonight that got started today, but just before this happened, because I wanted to have this exclusive information from my boys at the CU, is the $75 pledge, because originally that was an $80 pledge with a 75 backer limit. Now the 75 is unlimited. It also comes with an exclusive Kickstarter patch, but it's going to be different from the $80 one. And the $80 people are going to get both patches to kind of make up for that.
That is awesome.
So thank you. Well, you know, that pledge works, don't we?
Yeah.
Good info.
Since the project is being ran for Cypher system, which if it wasn't, we were coming to your house and hunting you down anyway. If I would have seen Mystery Flesh Pit 5e, Chris, me and you would have had some issues.
Can we have both? Why not both?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind both, but if it would have only been 5e, there would have been a problem. Are you creating any new descriptors, foci, ciphers, and artifacts for this setting? And did you have to make any changes mechanically to the system to make it fit the setting?
Well, how much time do you guys have? I took a lot of
I'm usually an hour-and-a-half show.
Yeah. I took a lot of some people might say liberties. I decided to kind of really look at Cypher from the ground up, and I felt validated later, as you will find out right now, because the big thing I did, because Cypher can go from competent hero to superhero. So, and that's, depending on what foci you use, right? And what descriptors you have. So what I did is, for our game, you only go up to tier 3. Tier 4, 5, and 6 don't exist in Mystery Flesh Pit.
Oh, that's interesting.
And on top of that, what I did is I also shaved a few points off the starting pools. So between those two things, I thought I gave myself a little more wiggle room for a lower level campaign. And then, of course, first responders comes out, and what do? Up to tier 3 for first responders. So I was like, whoo, that's good. I've really turned up the horror mode / void mode to 11. And it incorporates a corruption mechanic. And I also incorporated that into flavors. So let me rewind. So there, if you have powers in Mystery Flesh Pit, they're called PBSO manifestations. PBSO is the in-universe name for the Mystery Flesh Pit, which is permabasin superorganism, which if you really are a scientist or biologist, yes, we know that that phrase is not accurate, but we'll move on. Manifestation is the power. You can only get that as a flavor. And when you get it as a flavor, you get corruption points.
Oh, that sounds awesome. And
then when you use it, you have a chance. And if you get a by the way, one of the big small changes I made, which is big, is that you cannot re-roll GM intrusions. You can spend your grit. Oh, I mean my XP. Oh, grit also. I split XP out into in-game use and out-of-game use. And to do that with the out-of-game use, basically you have 3 advances instead of 4, but they're more expensive. They're 10 XP a piece versus 4. But there's math behind that works out.
How does the setting explain ciphers?
Ciphers are prototypes. They're from the R&D, which is also kind of an homage to Paranoia. And that's another big change, is a lot of ciphers and all of your powers. In Cypher, you're competent, you're a superhero. So you get a power, it works, it does its thing, right? Powers and prototypes come with downsides and potentially things that hurt you. Like you can have some goggles that you can use to do some life sensing, but there may be a chance that you're going to get them stuck to your face for a while as the needles embed into your skin. Things like, they have to be kind of crazy over the top. That was one of the hard things to do, is with Trevor, he uses crazy graphic, bureaucratic parody as his, as his stuff. I don't have that for everything I do. So I have to watch out going between slapstick to, just being kind of, satire. It's a tougher write to do. But yeah, so that's another change is ciphers can, like what you used to know is spines. If you move, you might break them while you're moving around. Therefore, your armor doesn't come in, as like your armor gets lost. Things like that. There's a lot of different changes, and they're all kind of interconnected to some degree. The corruption mechanic, you can, if it gets too much, you're gone. You're a NPC, but you can find ways to get rid of your corruption, though you will never totally get rid of it.
Go ahead.
Oh, and then and just like at a certain level, what I did was also, if somebody wants to complain that they can never get rid of it, please read this line to your player. You just got yourself another point of corruption. Congratulations.
But what I was going to say was, the more you talk about this, the more I'm excited about it. Like this all sounds so cool, especially for a horror game. And I just want to circle back just a tiny little bit. And
sure.
I said in the chat, the idea of lowering the base stats, of the types or whatever to, get that horror, make them a little more, susceptible to horror, a little weaker, a little more underpowered for a horror game is an excellent idea. I don't know why I never ever thought about messing with the starting type, values, stat type values. But yeah, that excellent idea. Also, I'm very excited to see more of this.
Oh, thank you. Well, on that note, that's a good vibe, because one of the little moments that really gave me faith to do a game design thing is like, what was either one of the first interview we had, or maybe another, and we were talking about a Wild West thing, and I said, well, you could do horror mode to kind of do that Wild West thing, and then all three of your eyes lit up, and I'm like, oh, I'm onto something. I got a nose for this.
I don't know if you remember this either, but one of our early episodes where you were on, we spoke about player intrusions prior to them coming on. We were like playing around with the idea of, oh yeah, GMs shouldn't be the only ones players should have, and then we adopted that in our home games. And I forgot what video, because you were on a couple of videos where we just were talking about just Cypher gaming in general, and we were tossing back the idea of player intrusions, compared to GM intrusions, and now that's a thing too.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah.
Always ahead
for
of
us
the
and
curve.
for Mighty Cook Games. Yes.
But yeah, what you call it? Can you and you touched on this a little bit already when you talked about the new pledge levels. But can you tell our audience what you've learned so far from the process that you didn't know before kickstarting this project? And do you have any advice for our listeners that want to get into crowdfunding role-playing games?
So there are a lot of choices out there, and everybody is kind of no one has like one set way that works for them. Everybody's kind of done something a little differently, and it's intimidating. I won't lie, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try to do it. Like a perfect example is, a lot of Kickstarters now are doing what's called discount print-on-demand codes. But when you do that, they pay for your pledge, then they pay again for the at cost of the book, and then pay for shipping. And Trevor and I were like, the idea of somebody paying our pledge and then having to pay again, that's not for us. And so for us, we're doing pledges, but that means we're going to send it to Drive-Thru RPG. They're going to do the printing and the shipping, but that means we now charge for shipping at the Kickstarter. And I guess this is like the top of mind because this is the thing I had to kind of wrestle with. And I was trying to avoid it at first by being very modest with our Kickstarter, and then finding out, yeah, that was a good problem to have. But, we have to kind of, if somebody orders from Australia, it's going to really be rough on us. But it's something you might want to look into, print on demand, because right now the printing press world is really crazy. It used to be they would, be knocking on people's doors. Now it's completely flipped. And everybody, they're like, hey, thank you for your money in advance. We'll get to you when we get to you. And I did not want that happening because for plenty of Kickstarters and friends of mine that have done them, they, their supporters are like, dude, where's the book? And they're like, yeah, we know. We wish that we would. I've had horror stories where one company, not even Kickstarter, just a company, they went into the negative because the books sat at the dock for so long, the custom fees ate all the profit. So yeah, print on demand, but you're going to have to balance out whether they're going to do it this way or that way. But yeah, and then a lot of the back end stuff with backer kit, it's just like, you almost want a mentor to be there by your side, like elbow to elbow, going, dude, what do I do? And tech companies, they're tech companies. Here's an FAQ and email us. And then I'm like, I would like to talk to a human just to kind of help me work this out. Maybe I'm old fashioned that way, but at some point, there's only so much you think you get from, what's going on with a manual or a website that's giving you instructions. All right, I'm done venting because evidently, hopefully that was also educational. Hopefully not scaring people off from the project. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna give you something else to vent about. I just hopped on because I usually wait till you guys get on the show to, I know I was gonna back this, but I'm gonna, wait to after have you on the show to back. And I was gonna force you to come on, so I was joining the pledge level, either the senator or the 160 to $200 play, and neither one of those are available anymore. So you have to make an exception for me to be able to back at least the 160 level.
I'll think of something. Well, you're going to get to play with me anyway. I actually want
to. I know, but I wanted to pay for it to force you to come on.
Oh man, that's amazing.
I didn't want to back at the $30 level. I was gonna.
Dude, I'm good to go. Do we want to do a game next week, this weekend, 2 weeks from now, while the Kickstarter's starting?
We'll definitely set up something. If you want to set it up before,
of course.
Matter of fact, we have 3 players, and we'll set up a quick raffle to be our 4th. If you want to play with Christopher and test out Mystery Flesh Pit, we'll set up a quick raffle, and you somebody in chat or watching it on YouTube the next day. We could set something up like that, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Long story short, yes.
We'll set something up, and we'll get one of our regulars to hop in.
I mean, this is no surprise to you. I mean, when you reached out and said, "Hey, do you want to be on?" I'm like, "Yes," and let's do a game. Let's show off Mystery Flesh Pit.
But
you're like, "Yes."
Whether you were doing it for free or not, I still want to back at the higher level. So
we can always put more money in.
So I could back.
Yeah. So just as a quick thing for anybody who's currently watching and wants to enter the raffle, I just brainstormed it. We will have something within the YouTube description where you can enter, or there will be directions on how to enter. So stay tuned for tomorrow when this video drops on YouTube. There will be directions on how to enter for that raffle.
Yeah, guys, depending on Dean's availability, we will be up front and forward. There's either going to be 1 or 2 slots only available, because there's no way in hell me and Alan not playing. So we will definitely figure that there's either 1 or 2 slots available, and we'll figure out a way. And good luck. I hope one of you guys get in.
I mean, for when you do those, and here's another Kickstarter thing. So the pledges that the guys are talking about are really high pledges, and it's because you get all the goodies, plus you get an online game with either me or Trevor and me game mastering. But I was very nervous about how many of these do I want to do, because the pressure's on, and I was like, you know what, 2, that's it, done, 2. I didn't want to do any more than that, just because I didn't want to fill up my days with it made me nervous. I to do it more than 2 or 3 times. So maybe we'll have a game designer insider game designer game at some point. I did play test it there's they call it kind of a proto spiel where you get to play test games and do design things. And it's once a year in Sarasota at the Ringling College. Yes, the college is founded by the Ringling brothers. And we did it there. And one of the younger hip game designers was like, "This is awesome." And I'm like, "Well, great." Because when you get snow in the hair like this, having somebody young and, in the latest thing, thinking your stuff is great, it's a good ego booster.
Definitely a good sign.
I'm sorry if I got way digressed in there. I apologize.
I'm a back at the vice president level and put the difference in the bonus support.
Okay.
So, Ed, we derailed hard enough. What's the next cue here?
Back to the list. Back to the question list.
Chris is like talking to your older brother, so you want to just get everything out there.
Is that the older brother you like, or the one you don't want to have to argue with at Thanksgiving? I just want that clarified.
Not Dean feels that way. Has Trevor allowed you in any way to change or expand upon the existing lore? And if so, can you talk about any new stuff you adding to the setting?
So some of that is because I'm tweaking all these ciphers and artifacts. So to some degree, there is little bits of new lore added. We're reviewing the creatures right now, where he's kind of giving a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So, but Trevor and I are kind of on the same page quite a bit of the time. I'm very lucky. And if he's watching right now, he had technical difficulties he couldn't really show, but if he's able to at least watch, yeah. Again, I appreciate you, buddy. We've been kind of on the same wavelength with the Kickstarter and with the content. And so the answer is yes, but we're still in that process. We're about 90% done with the manuscript, which later, that's one of the base things you get is early access to the manuscript, because 1,000 eyes can catch a typo that you've missed.
But oh dang! Now I completely blanked on. Okay, I remembered. My follow up to the question was: is the stuff that's going into the book, the new stuff that you're having a hand in creating, is that going to end up on the website as well as part of like the canon lore of it, or is this going to be like an offshoot ish type thing, like the stuff you're making specifically?
I'm going to assume, because Trevor and I really haven't talked about that, because I'm kind of a workhorse writer at heart. I write what I write, and I don't get attached to it because usually it's someone else's baby. But I mean, at this point, I'm assuming it's a spinoff. But hey, if he wants to take and bring it into the website as official content, I would be flattered and I'd be honored.
Here's to hoping at least one of the things makes it, because I know your stuff. You're very. I'm positive we're gonna see something very cool, and it would be awesome to see it make it official, quote unquote. Even though this is basically official, but you know what I mean.
100%.
Ooh. But now that we're winding down a little bit here, before we dive into the audience questions, is there anything else you would like to tell our audience about Mystery Flesh Pit National Park that we haven't asked, that we missed? And what else can we look forward from you from the future, or in the future?
Well, the one thing we didn't touch on was our sanity, which is actually called conformity.
Oh, nice.
Because if you're working and you're, looking around and you don't see any corners, everything is round and curved and brown and pulsating and smelling. When you get back to your air-conditioned cubicle, oh, look, there's right angles. I can take my Post-its and angle them just right, and everything's nice and neat on my desk. That's what conformity is about. It's that kind of, you just dive deeper into an obsession with the policies and the procedures and the bureaucratic doublespeak. And yes, you have to fill out an incident form because there's a blood stain on your uniform. You have to fill it out, even though they're screaming down the corner. You're going to still fill out that sort of stuff. And you could play Mystery Flesh Pit fairly straightforward. I think just with having the thing itself in that universe, it can be, instead of having Cthulhu or having the Yellow King, this can be its own elder god in a game. But I pushed to do the bureaucratic conformity and satire when the closer it becomes to like your standard average game. So for Fugitives, the NPCs might be doing more conformity than you, but when it comes to like public service or you're the subcontractors, that's when you're going to have urge to do something that in the moment wouldn't make sense, but it does, God, because that's what's in the policies in the book. Have you not read the manual? I'm writing the new sections of the manual. Thank you.
So is conformity like a pool, or is it that
it's a score. It's a score, and it can be activated with, I'm also going to write some tips on how to use GM intrusions to their full strength. We have had literally a paperwork virus just ripple through a group during playtest, and that was beautiful.
That's
like an NPC broke out and started doing paperwork, and everyone else had the urge to go, wait a minute, is there something I should be? And they all failed their conformity checks, and they started breaking out and writing down their paperwork.
Oh, man.
I want to run. Are you done with your paperwork yet? No, but I'm faster. It was people were grimacing and laughing, and that's just kind of that's where I want it to be. They're just that level of energy is going either into laughing kind of in a very stressful way to, my character's going to scream and back and forth. Usually after I do I do a mystery flesh pit playtest, I'm exhausted because it bounces back and forth between both.
I remember at GameOCon you were doing some play tests, and I was running games, so I never got to play, but I was actually running a game next to your table, and I heard everyone having such a great time.
It can get ridiculous in a great way. Oh, also a shout out to Monty Cook Games, not only for the open license. That table, they offered me that table. They said you can have that table all day for your playtest. Yeah, they are a class act, all of them.
You had a couple of, you was pretty much there all week.
Yeah, and I just to echo Anthony's sentiment there. Every time I looked over at your table when you were playing, everybody looked like they were having a blast. Everybody was happy, smiling, laughing. Live games like I'm stumbling because the majesty of in-person games is so few and far between these days that it was right. It's a wonderful sight to see people gather around a table having a blast, and it was because of Mystery Flesh Pit, and that's awesome.
Thank you very much.
You have time? We have quite a few questions from the audience. We could run through some of these if you have time to chat with us for a little longer, Chris.
Until I'm just too tired to not see straight. Yes, I'll answer all the questions people want about the Kickstarter, especially, and to be quite honest, if it gets them to help get us a little higher, great, because we have 2 stretch goals we need to hit.
All right, I got the first question out. Keybound asks, I attempted to read the webpage, the one that looked like a combo of the National Park page, the souvenir store, and the investigation report about the disaster. I'm not really sure how to make use of this setting. Let's say I wanted to make it a recursion. If I set the action before the disaster, nothing happens. If I set the action at the disaster, the PCs being PCs will find a way to survive and probably get a few trapped people out. Heck, with speaks to machines, if there are, you wrote a novel here, but if they have the accident, they might even understand that the machines are not maintained. They might realize that excessive power demand from crowds plus rain bumps might be horrible and do something to send people home early or something. What's the question?
He took the words out of my mouth. I was like,
I had them arrive outside the fence and said, there is nothing inside here but death. What can they do?
So let's rewind and tear that apart, because saying that there's nothing to do before the big accident is incorrect. A perfect example is the whole public service framework is park rangers and park guides and marketing people doing search and rescue missions for a lost tourist. That's basically kind of the default playtest I've been running. It's very blue collar science fiction style stuff. In addition to, kind of corporate, if you played Aliens, you could do an Aliens knockoff one shot in this. Actually, you could do a whole campaign, very much so. The thing is instead of the aliens being out in space and you have to go to them, they're just underground. Are you sure they're staying underground?
I think the gist of this question, now that I read the whole thing again, is can they make it into a recursion, and how could they make it into a recursion?
Oh, okay. For the strange.
Long-winded version of it.
Is someone trying to get thinking they're pulling a deep cut on me that I don't know the strange? I know the strange.
Pretty much.
I mean, it's a recursion, just like any cosmic horror incursion at the very high level. This could be, and the recursion could be a variety of things. It could be a meta pop lit conversion. Just like how the high fantasy / D&D incursion. I forget what the name of it is, because I'd have to go back over here and pull out my Endless Worlds and Recursions book. I forget the title of it off the top of my head. But it could be with that. It could be a kind of a conversion between science and cosmic horror, where instead of having the science be kind of a joke, the science has taken over. It could be another spin on, careful what you wish for with your science.
Trevor in chat also mentioned that it might be worth mentioning that the flesh pit itself extends hundreds of miles around and all underground in all directions.
If you dig deep enough into that website, pun intended, you find out that the mystery flesh pit may not be alone. There may be other flesh pits out there on that earth. Flesh pit entrances. So those might be separate organisms, or they may not be. That's I don't know if that's solved or not, but
I'm loving this.
In fact, it tempts me with The Fugitive that maybe the where you're at as a fugitive, you have a chance to get away because your powers come from not the flesh pit, but a flesh pit. So you're not under immediate scrutiny, and you get a chance to bolt. There's just so much you can do with this setting.
Yeah, Keybounce had a follow up here, and you can answer, but it said if I'm understanding the idea, is cosmic horror dungeon crawl. But again, the pit is part of it, and Chris, you can correct me. But there would be so much to do other than just exploring the pit. There would probably be anomalies just outside the pit. There's the attraction part with the people running the attraction. I'll let you take over.
Oh yeah, I mean, yes, you could run it like a 5e kind of modern, modern D20 dungeon crawl with a very organic theme to it. That would be a no-brainer to do for a 5e flavored version of it. But yeah, there's you can do all the great sci-fi and horror stuff, like the company that's doing things and using experiments, being the fugitive running away because you're going to be exposed to something or under the dissection or under the microscope. I mean, yeah, it itself is just the MacGuffin to do almost everything you can do with that sort of blue collar or white collar sci-fi. I mean, you can even do Severance could be squeezed in as an anodyne project of some sort.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting the vibe that there's going to be quite a bit to do in this setting.
Like I said, I had 3 frameworks, and I had to narrow it down to those 3 frameworks. I lost so much time getting lost in the weeds. And then Ken Hite from the wonderful podcast of Ken and Robin Talk About Stuff, in his podcast, he talked about, sometimes you have to stay on target, and all those other wonderful ideas of things you could do need to be little sidebars. If not, you're going to get lost in the weeds, just going, Oh, and check out that podcast. That is, especially if you like cosmic horror, that's a podcast you need to put on your list for gaming.
Wait, what was it again?
Ken and Robin Talk About Stuff. They have 2 shticks. Ken does Trail of Cthulhu as well as Delta Green. He's one of those, right? He's one of their writers. And Robin does The King in Yellow. So they like to come up with gaming ideas for that. One of the big ways they do it is they find actual historical stuff, tell you why it's important, and then turn it into something you can put in your game. And they even cover, especially espionage. They love to do espionage because one of Ken's masterpieces is called Night's Black Agents, which the elevator pitch is Jason Bourne meets a conspiracy of vampires and takes on Dracula.
Is awesome.
Yes.
That sounds super cool.
Swamp PG Godex or Swamp Godex asks, is the mining corporation going to be a major faction players can be working for?
Yes.
Oh,
We
yeah.
focused on public servants, but that was because we just kind of had to narrow it down again. But yeah, I mean, one of the it's like a perfect aliens laundry file sort of setup where you're blue collar guy or a bureaucrat and you are working for you're working to contain this thing or keep quiet about all the horrors that happen. So many mining accidents.
Nice.
With teeth marks.
And next question here is a funny one from our buddy Kedhup. You might know him.
Maybe.
When do I get my review copy for my channel? Gimme.
You know how you get a review copy? You go to the Kickstarter and back the project.
Ooh, I'll read the next one too because that was a funny one. Chris can't even interject on this one. Just go buy it. Okay.
We obviously know Chris would give Ken a review copy. I'm just busting his chops.
Does he want a review copy or a review draft?
Ooh.
Don't you offer a draft? Isn't there one?
Early access. That's what early access is. When we're a little closer to feeling like we're going to get the layout, we're going to shoot out a manuscript. Everybody will get to see it in its boring black and white, and type and Times New Roman font. Give some feedback, find some typos, and and then they'll get their PDF. And then because of the beauty of print on demand, if you're getting your PDF, you're probably going to be able to get, your print on demand book probably has been ordered.
But yeah, I'll dive into the next question too. We got quite a few questions. There's also from Swap Godex. Are there plans for deeper explorations into the creature or its origins? I assume they mean the pit itself.
We're going to stick with what's on the website for now. Sometimes I have to say, when you do science fiction and you're a geek, you want answers. You got to have everything defined. Perfect example is McCarthy's The Road, right? They never really say what the apocalypse was because that's not important to the story. And I mean, even if I was doing this as my own solo project, if this had come from my mind, I probably would be in the same thing. I don't want to really fully define it because in some way, leaving that to the reader's imagination or the GM's, leaving it open for the GM's own, thing to play around with is a smarter move than getting everything a definition.
A Bright Crazy Star asks an interesting question. The art in the website is full of actual companies, brands, and products. How will you be dealing with that? I don't think you could gamify that, can you?
There is, the use of parody, which means we're going to probably do something that has a similar logo, that has different letters, so you can get an idea of who we're talking about-ish. But yeah, we've already had that discussion. When it comes to the game, we're going to tweak those things a little bit. So you kind of know who we're aiming our fun at. And really those companies are to add vermicitude or flavor. We're not really poking fun at them. So between making it a parody logo and,
Peebus Cola, somebody wrote in chat.
Say what?
Somebody wrote in chat, good old Peebus Cola.
Yeah, something like that. Exactly. A genius. That's who asked it.
Al, they said it.
Oh, that is my bad. I was vaping. Let me re-ask that question. What is it? Just TLDR. Your game is only going to tier 3.
Yep. Okay.
Does it end at tier 3, or can you make purchases beyond that? So put it
We
another
asked
way.
the question because
Yeah, I'm asking it. I'm asking it, bro. Another ending character is expected to have 3 effort or 4.
3 effort and 3 edge.
So-
We might actually add a 4th level, but at this point I doubt it. And we can also use the rules that if somebody wants to go beyond that, that's a GM call. And like a perfect example of that is if we did something with 5e, people love to have their 20 levels, right? But and we do a 20 level class, but we say this game is best played in the first or second tier of D&D, level 1 through 10 or level 1 through 5.
Bright Crazy Star asks, will there be pre-gens or a way to fast track good choices based on progressing in MFP? I think it would be much easier to sell to players and make a few shorts.
In the book for the frameworks, we're going to have 3 mini adventures to kind of give you the vibe of what the game's about. And I'm also thinking of doing kind of a freebie PDF quick starter. So people kind of pass that around and get a kind of taste of what Mystery Flesh Pit is like and how bizarre it can be.
Oh, Al, I skipped the question.
Okay.
1 second, I'll go back.
Did I answer the question fully, or did I skip a step?
No, I think that one was good.
Yeah.
It'll have the pre-gens and whatnot, so you can dive in.
Oh yeah, and we'll probably if we're doing a quick start, we'll add some pre-gens. I mean, that's how I play test with pre-gens.
So yeah, awesome. And the skipped question, also from Swap Godex. So is it like a full-on alternate history of like Eldritch Flesh computers?
Up to a point there is, until the disaster of 2007, which makes the computers unable to be maintained. When we say full on, we have an ad for an organic computer, and then that's it. What the GM does to imply and do things with that is a whole other level, and that's kind of where the whole rabbit hole comes from. Is how much do you fill in with these holes? Because they're not really holes, but as you play the game, you have questions and you have to get answers.
And you can't answer everything. You got to leave something for the GM to build around.
And we have 2 more questions here.
There was another skip.
Yeah, exactly. That was the other one.
Will Coke Heartthrob be a Cypher?
It will be, yes.
And our last question here from Jack One Spade. Are there perhaps teases to other mystery locations in the world, or is it sticking to just the titular locale?
Right now, it's sticking to the titular locale. We'll have to look at our word count and see if we can squeeze in other teases. I mean, at a certain level, like I said, this is a really great, set piece for a cosmic horror universe. If we didn't already have so many monsters, I would be like, here is a flesh pit werewolf. Here is a flesh pit vampire. Because you can use it to explain so many crazy, weird things. I doubt those will actually get in. But, I mean, probably in my home game.
That'd be cool as hell.
It would definitely be awesome.
Everything from chat, right?
Yeah, that's all of them.
Yeah,
that's it.
You guys. Those were some great questions. And thank you, Chris, for sticking through and answering all these questions.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure. I've been working on this thing for 1.5 years, and people actually want to hear about it now.
It's freaking awesome. It sounds awesome. The website is awesome. The game sounds awesome. Like, I don't know what else to say, but let's play. And like we established earlier, we're going to set up a raffle. If you want to play with us and with Chris and see if we can survive this mystery of Flesh Pit National Park together, join the raffle. We'll have it set up on the YouTube page tomorrow. We can't guarantee more than 2 spots. It might only be 1 depending on Dean's availability. But we definitely want to make it happen. We definitely want to play with you, the audience. and with Chris. We played with Chris many times before, but we definitely want to play with him on stream.
Yeah, you guys play tested my predation, my little short predation mini adventure.
Yes. So yeah, this would be awesome, and thank you for volunteering that.
No problem.
I'm laughing because Anthony is the one who volunteered that. Like, you know, it's just like, no, and then we'll have a raffle. People can play.
Everyone knows I'm pushy, right? But Chris, be honest. Didn't you tell me you was gonna run us a game like a week ago when I asked you to come on? I mean, like
100%. I was actually literally on my keyboard, ready to go. Hey, Anthony, would you mind if I got on? Is there room for me? And you were like, already there, you know.
Yeah, I was like, hey, I sent Chris a message. Hey, when you coming on to promote this? And his reply was, oh, I was just going to tell you and run a game. So you owe me an apology, Al.
Okay, I'm sorry I'm sorry for something I was not present for and had no knowledge of. No, I'm not muted. You were spazzing out for a moment. But either way, the raffle will be up on the YouTube tomorrow, along with instructions on how to join. Whatever, I still have to figure out exactly how I'm doing it, but that's how we're gonna get it started. Thank you again, Chris, for coming on. This has been an absolute blast. I am more excited than ever about Mystery Flesh Pit National Park. I want to say the whole name. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on, telling us more about it. You know, it looks like the audience here also very excited for what's in store. And just a quick thank you to Trevor. He's in the chat. He did answer some questions himself. So again, thank you, Trevor Roberts, for coming on and, you know, answering and saying hello in the chat there. Very appreciated. We're very excited to see more from y'all as a group, as a team. Very exciting times. Very, very exciting. Yeah, and as a quick reminder, be sure to check out the links here for their stuff, for the Kickstarter, for the Mystery Flesh Pit website, along with Ganza's or Chris's Patreon, and both their Twitters. Definitely check them out. Yeah, this has been an absolute blast. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
I know
Al, before Trevor, if you're in chat, could you confirm or deny that there is a Roblox game of Flesh Pit? And what's the name of the game in case anybody wants to go check it out?
And while he's confirming that in the chat, I know we spoke a lot about Mystery Flesh Pit National Park, but there are two other Cypher products coming out that are being backer campaigned right now. And we had both of them on our channel recently, but just as a quick reminder, firstly, there's Mr. Tarrasca's Isle of the Dreaded Accursed, which has 19 days left to go. And that link is right here for y'all. Oh, and there is the Roblox link in the chat there as well for the Mystery Flesh Pit National Park. That is amazing. And what is it? Trevor is saying that it's actually terrifying. So definitely check that out if you play Roblox. And sorry for the aside. And the other product that is being funded right now only has 62 hours left, and it is Underground Oracle Publishing's project, Harrow, the Blighted Plane. And that also looks quite awesome. I think the synopsis was like Gem Punk or something like that. But
Crystal Punk, I think.
Crystal Punk, there it is, Crystal Punk.
Yeah, we've already, I already set a shout out for Jess in our update, because that is one of the great things about Cypher is overall, it's been a wonderful community. If you're at other places in Reddit and this is, I consider Cypher Unlimited my little haven from the rest of the internet.
Oh, thank you.
It is definitely a very pleasant place.
People say good morning on the general channel every day. Every day you go there. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's across the world, but good morning.
Yeah, go check out these two projects, Mr. Tarrasca and Underground Oracle Publishing. They're both fantastic projects. And like we said earlier, we're a small, loving community that supports our own. And Chris is no different. We love Chris, and I would support this whether I knew Chris or not. Mystery Flesh Pit National Park looks freaking awesome. But since I know him more so, go support the brother, because we really, really see this come to fruition.
So yeah, this has been an absolute blast. Thank you again. I know we already said our thank yous. I'm gonna wrap it up here. Anthony, I don't know if you can hear me, but your thing has been skipping, so I'm gonna do the rundown just to make sure it goes smoothly. So yeah. Thank you everybody for stopping by. Thank you, Chris, and I'm gonna do that spiel. Don't if you like us, you like what we. I'm gonna do it just like Anthony. If you like us, you like what we do. Be sure to join the Cypher Limit Discord. We have the largest fan run Discord for all things Monty Cook games, with games being run all the time. And let me go ahead and link that because I'm also doing that too. Not a fan of Discord? Join our Facebook group. It's not as big as our Discord, but there's still plenty of Cypher discussion to be had there. What's the next one? Subscribe to us on YouTube. If you ever miss our Twitch show, we always upload to YouTube afterwards. We're trying our best to reach higher heights. We just passed 1,000 a month or so ago. We appreciate all the support given to us there. So yeah, give us a subscribe there. Follow us here on Twitch if you haven't already. As well, give us a donation on Coffee. Our videos will always be free, but donations on Coffee keep us running for things like Zoom costs and other little expenditures we might have. And lastly, if you like us, be sure to hit up our merch store. We have a lot of nice stuff in there: sweaters, hats, all that good stuff, notebooks. If you like it, we have our name on it. Go check it out. Support us. We really, really appreciate it. I don't think I missed anything. Anthony, any final words?
You mentioned Kofi.
Yeah. Coffee's already down.
And I guess since you did me excellently, I'll follow it up. From us at the CU, we will see you later.